A light breeze caresses the strayed forests. It passes by the grazing Aptonoth, does not disturb the quarreling velociprey. It flows through the air, unnoticed. But is it just a breeze? Or is it the portent of the king, whose wings displace the wind, pushing it through the land as a warning? Is it just a breeze, or is it the mark of the royal flying wyvern? Of all the creatures that roam the land, few are as feared as the flying wyvern. As the single most diverse class of monsters, these winged bipedal wyvern come in many shapes and sizes, most of them quite fearsome. But even among this highly successful class, one genus stands above all, a group of flying wyvern so dominant and ecologically thriving that they have become synonymous with the entire class of flying wyvern. Indeed, no matter where one walks, it is likely to be the territory of a rath. Like all flying wyvern, raths are easily distinguished by their grounded hind limbs and winged front limbs. Their legs are thick and strong, with wide, four-toed feet. Their wings extend outwards and have thick membranes adorned with distinct swirly patterns. Their bodies, their triangular heads, and their long, clubbed tails are all covered in an assortment of shells and scales, for which they are classified under the infraorder Testa Dracone, shell wyvern. This coat of armor is unique among flying wyverns due to its density. The smallest scales on a rath are essentially flush with the creature's skin, meaning that they overlap and bend seamlessly and without friction. This allows the raths to have outstanding protection against physical damage while not sacrificing virtually any mobility. With such protection and the ability to take to the air, one might think that the raths are in need of protection, opportunists ready to flee at any moment. Nothing could be further from the truth. The raths sit at the top of almost any ecosystem they inhabit, due to three key factors. One is their high mobility and durable shell armor. Another one is their arsenal of offensive options. All rath species grow both a flame sac and a venom gland in their bodies. The flame sac produces a fiery blend of particles and viscous fluid that can be spit from the mouth as streams or projectiles of scorching flames. The venom gland, meanwhile, produces a dangerous venomous compound that weakens and kills anything it is injected into, making for a formidable tool in subduing prey. The raths themselves are immune to this poison. The third and most influential factor to the rath's success is their extreme sexual dimorphism and resulting co-parenting strategies. Sexual dimorphism refers to the phenomenon in which individuals of the same species show anatomical differences between sexes. In the rath's case, the male Rathalos and the female Rathian look so dissimilar that a novice hunter would be excused for thinking that they are entirely different creatures. The female Rathian is a common sight in forests and temperate hill regions, although some are known to live in desert zones as well. In the most common species of raths, Rath regalis, also known as the regal rath, the Rathian has a distinct green shell armor, allowing it to blend in seamlessly among the trees. Despite the species' overall reputation, a female rath is actually much more adapted to life on land. Its wings are strong, but not remarkable beyond that. Its hind legs, meanwhile, are extremely muscular, allowing it a secure bipedal stance when grounded. Its talons are shorter than those of the males, presumably to maximize land mobility. These two features allow the Rathian to downright gallop across the ground, running and charging at foes in a brutal manner. The reason for these adaptations is the Rathian's parental role. Once a mother, the Rathian is tasked with procuring prey and offering protection from the ground. This is likely a result of the phenomenon in which encountering small prey in dense forests is easier on land than from the air. The other main feature of the Rathian's body is perhaps the most apparent one. All across her body, but especially on the back, shoulders, and the tail tip, the female Rath grows assortments of rigid, dark green barbs. These structures are directly connected to the Rath's venom gland, which in the females is located in the tail. These barbs are used to inject the deadly Rath poison into prey and enemy alike, mostly through the Rath swinging its tail at adversaries. The location of these barbs and the venom gland are also a result of the Rathian's grounded lifestyle. Swinging a tail at an enemy is easier when on the ground, especially if one can backflip with as much ease as the Rathian can. And the barbs on the back and shoulders protect the female from attacks from above, ensuring that any rivaling flying wyvern would immediately get poisoned should it push its luck. Notably, the long spike on the chin of the Rathian is not a venom barb per se. It is instead a hollow feeding tube, through which the Rathian can push pre-chewed food out as small squishy pellets for her young to enjoy. A little bit of poison is still mixed in with that food, however, in order to immunize the young to Rath poison, such that they can, in the future, poison their prey without worry. The male Rathalos, meanwhile, has a few notable differences in its anatomy. The coloration of a Rathalos is always, in all known Rath species, distinctly unlike that of the Rathian. A regal Rathalos is generally red, with dark accents across its shell armor. While the Rathian's parental role confines it mostly to the ground, the male Rathalos is tasked with protecting the territory from above. A true king of the sky, with an anatomy that fully embraces and facilitates an airborne lifestyle. For one, it entirely lacks the venom barbs that so starkly define the Rathian. Tissue analysis has revealed that the males do actually have the capacity to grow these barbs, but that they have degenerated severely over time. Most scholars interpret this to be a result of the Rathalos' airborne nature, as losing the barbs makes the body more aerodynamic, reducing friction and allowing for more agile maneuvers in the air. And truly, a flighted Rathalos has few equals. Its lack of barbs, slimmed down shell, and extremely powerful wings make it a magnificent flyer. Its preferred method of attack is to descend onto prey with its powerful talons. Its feet are modified to accommodate this, as its toes are much longer and more articulate than those of the females, allowing for rapid, solid slashes and a strong grip on prey. These elongated toes can, however, be awkward to walk on when the Rathalos lands. To mitigate this, the males have specialized toe joints that allow them to curl their talons and shorten them, making for a more comfortable grounded gait. It is a crude workaround, but while it does not afford the Rathalos the ground mobility of its female counterpart, it does its job sufficiently well. Its venom gland is also altered to suit the male's needs. In Rathalos, it is located in the feet, supplying venom exclusively to the sharp claws at the toes. All of these adaptations make the Rathalos a devastating force of nature when in the air. And yet it is not a creature designed merely for violence. Just like the Rathian, the Rathalos has a parental structure on its chin, a small osteoderm, visually comparable to a short horn or spike. Its purpose, however, is not to pierce enemies, but to dig up soil and arrange loose organic matter. It is a tool for building nests. With these adaptations, as well as a fiery breath that both sexes share, both Raths would be powerhouses in their own right. But they exist as pairs, and as such are nearly unstoppable no matter the ecosystem. For the first years of their life, Raths live apart. The male Rathalos wander harsh environments, such as mountain regions and volcanic plains, where they prey on strong competitors to hone their skills. Meanwhile, Rathians tend to congregate in milder climates, green havens where they grow up in relative peace. One well-known spot that usually attracts unpaired Rathians are the forests in the center of the continent, near Dandorma. During the breeding season, Rathians migrate towards the Rathalos in search of a suitable mate. Hormonal flushes subtly change both monsters. The barbs of the Rathian grow thicker, while the chin spike of the Rathalos grows longer. Both of these features are believed to be relevant for mate selection. Once a suitable pair has found each other and the deed has been done, a peculiar thing happens. Some pairs immediately split up, with the Rathalos returning to harsher regions while the now gravid Rathian does not return to the green hills of her homeland, but instead migrates to hotter climates, often deserts. These lone Rathian then raise their young on their own, becoming aggressive and fierce single mothers. But just as often, the pairs don't split up after mating. It is unknown what determines this outcome. Instead, many Rath pairs remain bonded for the rest of their lives, as the Rathalos accompanies its gravid mate back to her forest at home, where a sophisticated co-parenting strategy begins. As the female prepares for the arduous task of egg-laying, the male scouts out a suitable nest location, usually either in caves with an open roof for aerial access or on the side of cliffs and mountains. The Rathalos then begins preparing the nest, arranging dead plant and other organic matter into a dense bed. This matter will, over time, decompose into an oily, flammable liquid that can be ignited to scare off smaller creatures. Once the nest is ready, the Rathian will lay a clutch of around 10 eggs, which will hatch soon after. Once the children arrive, the true labor begins. The parents divide their duties based on their innate abilities. The Rathian prowls the land, looking for small prey to present to the young, while also marking the territory with claw marks. The Rathalos, meanwhile, oversees that territory from the air, fighting off any other flying wyvern that attempt to fly through their airspace, as well as scouting for land threats from above. These duties are performed in shifts to ensure that one parent is always within earshot of the nest. Juvenile Raths are completely defenseless, after all. Both parents excel at their roles. A fully grown Rathalos isn't just an excellent flyer, but also possesses a lot of stamina. While most flying wyvern can only fly for a few hours at a time due to their size, a Rathalos can easily stay in the air for 3 days in a row. Using this ability, the father becomes a continuous watchful eye in the sky. But it is the Rathian that truly shines during this time, as she displays significant intelligence and cunning. Notably, a Rathian will not merely attack every creature that enters her territory. Instead, she will cultivate a mini ecosystem to maximize the protection of her nest. For example, Rathian are known to allow smaller carnivores to nest in their territories, because said carnivores usually prey on smaller ovivores, the detestable egg-eaters that are the Rathians' main concern. Thus, by selectively allowing the presence of certain species while rejecting others, the queen curates the local food chain, with herself and her mate on top. The Rathian is also primarily in charge of nurturing and educating her clutch. The oily puddles near the nest are an excellent way for the juvenile Raths to learn how to use their flame breath, for example. Numerous hunters and scholars have also reported seeing Rathian kidnap smaller wyvern, such as young velociprey, alive, in order to present them to their young, presumably to train them in combat against a weak opponent. These strategies, which make excellent use of the unique strengths of each parent, have caused the child mortality of Raths to be shockingly low for wild wyvern standards. This leads to steady population growth and proliferation, which has resulted in the regal Raths specifically being perhaps the single most successful species of wyvern ever observed. Rath regalis is found all across the old continent and even on the New World, a true testament to the species' extraordinarily effective lifestyle. With such a wide geographic distribution also comes regional variation, as different habitats promote and encourage subtle differences even within the same species. In the case of Rath regalis, two distinct trends of regional variation other than the regular Schradian Dundorman kind are known. The further east one goes on the main continent, the bulkier and thicker the regal Raths get. These are known as Eastern regal Raths, and they display a significantly enhanced musculature. This regional variation seems to have originated in the island district, likely due to increased competition and harsh island terrain necessitating additional muscle mass. Notably, Eastern Rathians are a lot more prone to flight than their Schradian sisters, even attacking from the air like their mates on rare occasions. The more drastic regional variation, however, is seen in the opposite direction, the New World. Being an entirely separate continent, the New World has caused many of the local species, many of which also exist in the Old World, to evolve differently to their Old World counterparts. The Raths are no exception, as the New World variation seems to have branched off from the Old World lineage fairly early, as they display some significant anatomical differences. This is especially visible in the males. New World Rathalos have an additional finger bone fused into the wing, and their legs are almost twice as thick as those of the Schradian or Eastern variations. This is believed to be a result of the Raths' main habitat on the New World, the ancient forest, whose trees and greenery are much thicker and harder to navigate than the mild woodlets of the Old World. The additional bone in the wing allows for more sophisticated folding of the wings, making precise navigation in the dense forest easier. Likewise, the thicker legs and increased muscle mass allowed the New World Rathalos to take off without much preparation or momentum, an invaluable ability in an area with little open space. New World Rathians, meanwhile, don't have many visible differences, but instead one massive, invisible one: the venom gland's location. In Old World Rathians, the gland is believed to be located at the base of the tail. This is due to the observation that cutting off the tail of an Old World Rathian does not fully disable her ability to produce venom, meaning that the gland has to be located rather close to the body. In New World Rathians, however, losing her tail does in fact rob the Rathian of her venom entirely, thus leading researchers to conclude that their venom gland sits at the tip. This might be an adaptation designed to concentrate the venom more directly into the tail barbs, the main weapon, at the cost of increased risk of losing it. A massive difference between Old World and New World Raths is also found in their cooperative behaviors. While Raths in the Old World would either pair up for life or split instantly after procreation, New World Raths perform a kind of competitive polygamy. During the breeding season, countless Rathians seek out one Rathalos in the ancient forest. The male then mates with as many females as he can muster. Once this is done, only one Rathian, the most dominant, assertive, suitable female, is allowed to remain in the forest while the others are cast out. The dominant female then lives out her days much like the Old World species would, caring for her young in cooperation with their father in the ancient forest. The rejected Rathians, however, are forced to move into the adjacent desert region, the Wildspire Waste, where they have to raise their children all by themselves. No Rathalos will ever come to help them, and these females are notably more aggressive and violent than the ones who are chosen as queen. While the Regal Raths are by far the most widespread Rath species out there, it is certainly not the only one. Disregarding regional variation, there are so far 3 distinct species within the genus Rath. Rath regalis is just often considered the common species, due to its abundance. The second most proliferate species is known as Rath ornatus, the Ornate Rath. This Rath species is distinguished by their coloration, wherein the males are blue, called Azure Rathalos, and the females are pink, called Pink Rathian. This species is believed to have developed out of a mutation to the shell of Regal Raths. At some point, a mutation began appearing in the gene pool that caused the composition of the shell armor on Raths to change drastically, becoming much thicker, denser, and heavier while also distorting pigmentation. This mutation was, at least initially, very likely a death sentence. These mutated Raths were too heavy to move effectively, and too colorful to hide when necessary. The blue males likely suffered under the weight of the shell, making them unable to fly, while the pink females were easy to spot in the forests. But over time, as nature tends to do, these mutated Raths adapted to their bodies. The Azure Rathalos eventually began developing additional muscle mass to enable life with the reinforced shell. In the process, their muscles grew so strong that they became even more adept flyers than the Red Brothers, with unmatched aerial precision and prowess. The Pink Rathian also adapted to her new armor, likewise developing increased muscle mass, but to a lesser degree. While a Pink Rathian can fly fairly well due to her enhanced strength, she actually doesn't need to. The additional weight of the mutated shell makes her charging rampages and trample stampedes even more deadly. Her venomous tail is also a lot heavier than in Green Rathians, making it an even more powerful bludgeoning weapon. Additionally, Pink Rathians have increased aggression in order to counter the conflicts that they're likely to encounter due to their coloration. Once adapted to it, these mutated Raths were significantly more dangerous than their regular cousins, as they now boasted both a more resistant protective shell as well as enhanced strength. As these mutations stabilized and became consistent across generations, and as the affected Raths grew to overcome them, they eventually speciated, becoming a genetically distinct and consistent subspecies of the Rath genus, Rath ornatus. They are considered the most aggressive species of Rath, likely a psychological consequence of the hardships these Raths usually face in their youth. The rarest species of Rath is, by comparison, so rare that every few years, some researcher or another proposes that it actually doesn't even exist, that it was just a handful of discolored individuals reported by questionable sources. That is, however, untrue, as the existence of the third Rath species, Rath metalis, has been confirmed by numerous accredited scholars and hunters over the years. The so-called metal raths are so elusive that they have been designated with the rare species classification by the Hunters Guild, reserved for the rarest and most powerful non-Elder Dragon monsters. Metal raths are so rarely seen because they only inhabit the least hospitable environments on the planet: smoldering volcanic mountain ranges and desolate, ruined plains. They are slightly more abundant on the continent of Funron compared to the Central Continent and the New World continent. Metal raths are named as such because they, just like the Ornate Raths, sport a discolored shell, in this case a silver shell in the males and a golden one in the females. This discoloration is likely also an adaptation that resulted from a mutation, but one that is far less understood than what happened to the Ornate Raths. What is known is that through some kind of genetic change, the shell of metal raths is able to absorb and bind metal dust from the surrounding air, fusing it into the armor and reinforcing and discoloring the shell in the process. This process is very similar to how the plate armor of a Laoshan lung forms, and just like with that dragon, the shell of the metal raths is unfathomably hard and resistant due to this. Whether or not this happened because a population of raths moved into volcanic regions with aerosol metal dust, or if it was this mutation that caused the raths to migrate to said regions in the first place, is unknown. What is observable is that these enhanced metal shells offer the silver Rathalos and gold Rathian unparalleled protection against physical damage. It, however, introduces a new problem. A shell laced with conductive metals allows electricity to travel through easily, which meshes poorly with the Rath's natural weakness to thunder. Another key difference between Rath metalis and the other Rath species is the functionality of the flame sac. In metal Raths, this organ has additional membrane openings that can, at the wyvern's command, start venting heat into the metal shell, spiking the Rath's body temperature and igniting the shell with a white-hot glow. In this mode, called the incandescent state by the guild, the flames produced by the metal Raths are unthinkably hot, able to melt just about anything. It is believed that venting the excess heat from the flame sac into their shell allows Rath metalis to push the power of its flame sac to its limit without it exploding under its own pressure. This, of course, partially melts the metal shell, making it softer to damage. How exactly this feature evolved is currently unknown. It might be the result of a mutation separate from the one that metallized the shell, or it might be a consequence of the same mutation. Research is still ongoing. Due to the relative abyss of knowledge regarding them, as well as their brilliant coloration, metal Raths are worshipped as heavenly messengers by some fringe cultures. These are the three generally defined species of Rath, with very little discourse surrounding their legitimacy, except of course the occasional controversy about metal Raths. Curiously, no crossbreeding between them has ever been observed, although considering their phylogenetic relatedness, it should absolutely be possible in theory. Besides these three core species, there is one other kind of Rath that can, extraordinarily rarely, be found roaming the lands. For the Rathregalis species can be subject to deviance. Deviance is a catch-all term for extreme variations in individual monster physiology and behavior that are so absurdly pronounced that regular genetic and environmental factors cannot explain them away easily. It is in many ways an extreme form of variance. These individuals are then called deviants. Rathregalis can produce deviance in both the males and females, although it is even rarer than encountering a metal Rath. Male deviants are called Dread King Rathalos, and are defined by a dark red carapace, enlarged talons, and a generally humongous body shape. Just about every aspect of this wyvern is enhanced. Its poison is more potent, its wings are stronger and allow for longer flight, and its shell is resistant to most attacks. Most devastating, however, is the upgrade to its flame sac. In addition to the usual fire particle blend, this organ produces a secondary substance that allows the flames to burn hotter and even expand and contract multiple times. This allows for the breathing of flames that explode violently, detonating multiple times even after hitting their target. This secondary substance also seems to leak into the wyvern's hide, as its scales and shells burn at scorching temperatures, even after being removed from the Rathalos. It's this leaking that is likely the cause of the wyvern's discoloration. The female deviant is designated with the name Dread Queen Rathian, recognizable by the enlarged poison barbs and dark purple coloration. While the male deviant has all of its physical characteristics enhanced, the Dread Queen is defined by a singular but remarkable transformation: her venom gland. The production of venom in the Dread Queen Rathian is enhanced and pushed into overdrive, to the point where her enlarged barbs are constantly leaking liquid venom and even emitting venom gas. It is this saturation that likely causes the discoloration of the shell. The barbs on the Dread Queen's tail can even break off in chunks, laying on the ground and emitting clouds of noxious gas. Even in death, the Dread Queen Rathian is deadly, as every body part is absolutely doused in venom. Only the most experienced weaponsmiths would even dare handle Dread Queen scales as a result. Like with most deviants, it is unknown what creates the Dread Raths. A fringe faction within the scholarly halls of Dundorma has suggested that it might be a dormant gene that is passed down in certain lineages of regal wrath. This Dread gene would activate in only very few wrath embryos, but once it did, it is theorized to hypercharge hormonal activity in the body, causing the wrath to display overdevelopment of all relevant organs and body structures, from size to flame sac to venom glands. The discolorations being a consequence of overly active elemental organs somewhat supports that hypothesis, but as of right now, the guild isn't even close to accepting it as a core theory. For the moment, the mystery of the deviant wraths remains unsolved. No matter where one goes, one is likely to trespass on royal territory. For if there is one genus of monster that has truly, indubitably succeeded in nature, it is the Wrath. Coming in many colors, rarities, and tempers, these flying wyvern truly earned their titles as the rulers of sky and land, for their cunning, effective rule lives on, supremacy built on a magnificent interplay between sexual dimorphism, evolutionary creativity, and sheer, unbridled power. Next time on Monster Hunter Ecology. In the bushes, in the dunes, in the jungle, a quiet empire. Inconspicuous critters unite into powerful packs, able to take on challenges much larger than themselves. Silently, these wyvern might be the true rulers of the old world. A very special thank you to all of our patrons whose names you can see on screen now. An extra special thank you to Fiction Ape, Arcturian 711, Bradley Beck, Claire Miboon, Danilo Villavicencio, Dissy, Emperor Evie, Geo, Hubble Mirror 123, Jameson Tate, Magenta, Makote 02, Mr. Pyramid, Mr. Meander, Mr. Chef, Nils Schlatter, Orbital, Pere Fuego, Pero Scocco, Person 212, Project Iceman, Rambling Robin, Russell, Soruka, Terrador, Oakwood Tree, Iron Camel, Courage, and Sir Newt Newt. Take care, everyone, and I will see you for the next episode.